The topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
Hello and welcome to Fearless Fabulous You. I am your host, Melanie Young, and it's great to see everyone after a 2-week hiatus. I'm back, and I am so excited to share yet another amazing, dynamic woman entrepreneur who is rewriting yet another chapter of her life, because I'm all about the fact that you can write and rewrite the chapters of your life as often as you want to follow your passion. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're also going to talk about something I actually love, which is Kentucky bourbon. I have a empty bottle. I didn't drink it all at once, but I noticed when I got this bottle of Good Trouble Kentucky Bourbon, it was full. And I have been on the wagon because I had some recent surgery. So I haven't been nipping it, but somebody's been sipping it. And I think it was my husband, David. He really liked it. And we served ourselves an old fashioned last night to toast the last drop. And it was just delicious. And so we're going to talk to the founder of Good Trouble Bourbon, but she's also a serial entrepreneur. Yes, this is the look at the bottle. The bottle has a woman on a ball on the label, which we're going to talk about, because this is a power of women and getting into good trouble. And we're going to talk about that and what it means to get in good trouble and why people like you, my followers and listeners, can get into your own good trouble and do something great in your community or for the good. And we all want to do that more and better right now, right? Right. So let me give you a little intro on my guest. Dee M Robinson is a self-described troublemaker for social change. She is an entrepreneur and with like lots of business background. Like she worked in consumer product goods and advertising and food service, and she runs Robinson Hill, which is a concessions management firm. Which, if you go to the airport at like Chicago O'Hare, where she lives, you'll see some of her businesses. She is also a longtime bourbon enthusiast like me and created Good Trouble Bourbon with an 8th generation master distiller. So that's kind of interesting. She is one of a few women I know who have been successful in other areas of business and then decided to dip their feet into distilling, which we're going to talk about because that's a big jump. A big leap. Trust me. I know one of my really good friends is doing it. So we're going to hear her story and hopefully you'll get some inspiration from Dee M Robinson. Welcome to Fearless Fabulous You.
Hi there, Melanie. It's a joy to be here. So thank you. I'm loving all these stories. I got to also thank David as well, because I did see that empty bottle you had up there.
It really is good. I mean, I love bourbon, but whenever David, my husband, gets some of the products sent to me and it has a woman on the front, he's like, oh, another woman product. And then I noticed the bottle kept getting less alcohol in it, and I'm like, where's it going? The angel share.
Tell David not to underestimate what we women can do. He'll go, come on. He's like, in fact, that's what he should run to if he sees that, because there's the care and the love that we're going to put into things. So I'm glad that he saw it and then he sipped and continued to do so.
Yeah, well, we really both enjoyed it. And many of our really good friends, as I referenced, are in the spirits business and also the wine business, and they're women. So we embrace it. You were in Chicago. You grew up in Chicago, which I love. Some of my favorite women chefs and favorite people are in Chicago. Tell me about your background, early interests, and who Little Dee was.
Well, Little Dee was, first of all, was born in Cleveland, Ohio, so I could never ignore that background. But my formative years, and in fact, all of my adult life was here in Chicago. And so I absolutely call it home. I didn't go to high school in Cleveland, so I sort of started there as a foundation. But that's where I probably just learned how to be a creative. I played basketball. I was the one that had the lemonade stand. So I always say those early entrepreneurs are the ones in the making who put those stands out. And I had a job in retail. So I also sometimes think those early starts sometimes influence our later ones. And so here I am years later, never thinking about ever being in retail and being an entrepreneur. And here I am.
It's interesting. When I was a little girl, I ran around with a fountain pen interviewing people and then taking notes.
See,
And here I am.
See, here you are. But I want to tell another important story, though, about my mom, because my mother played such a huge role and biggest fan. But, back then, from families, whether they're our mothers or fathers who were just trying to take care of their families, and they had what some might call side hustles. So even today, people call them side hustles. Everyone should understand that they are being entrepreneurs. They're not. And so she worked, but at the same time, she sold peanuts and balloons and things like that at the stadiums. And we watched that as I was growing up. So little Dee had that as this beautiful model. But again, she called it taking care of her family to make sure her ends met, or, she met, her financial needs. But in the day, it was her watching her tenacity and just her creativity. And even she supported me on the journey, was always by my side. So, for all those folks out there who had parents helping and sort of working those extra jobs, they were pouring love into us. And so, but also it helped sprout where we are today.
Absolutely. Did you grow up in a big family or a small family?
No, well, I have a twin brother, and actually it's a great question because it has a lot to do with the title of the brand. So I had an older brother, older sister. So my sister Pearl was the firstborn. And if my mom said go right, she went left. And she was a troublemaker. And then 10 years later, surprise, my mom realized she's having twins. And what she used to say to us was that the only kind of trouble we could get in was good trouble, because my sister got into all the rest. And so that's actually how Good Trouble really started to really, become part of my soul. But at the same time, it was the late 60s. And so she was also teaching us how we had to show up in the world, that people may not like you. People may not appreciate what you do, but you have to go be you. And then, of course, there's John Lewis, and who, hopefully, Your Honor, if they don't know who he is, should absolutely understand this amazing legend, this icon of the civil rights movement. But he asked us all to get into good trouble, necessary trouble. And I say stay in trouble. So that's sort of where the name came from, and that's by the family. But thanks to my sister, who was the troublemaker, it led to a life of maybe actually what I do today, just trying to figure out how to put good in the world.
Well, it's really important. And yes, I went to Selma when we were doing our long road trip. We walked the bridge, and I thought about John Lewis, and there's a wonderful museum there. If everyone take that Southern Civil Rights road trip, you will learn so much about what people fought for, like John Lewis. And it was just incredible. But Dee, a lot of young ladies back in the day, my day, your day, where when we were young girls, we were not encouraged to get into trouble. We were encouraged to be good girls, follow the rules, look the part, don't stand out. Fortunately, over the years, that has changed. I don't know what it's like now because I'm not in the world of child rearing.
Well, I am.
Okay, well, tell me, because what's going on out there? I mean, what are you teaching our girls?
Well, you know what? I think what's most important about our girls is to teach them. I love fearless and fabulous forever. I love that, because we need to teach them how to be fearless. And, when I wrote my book, Courage by Design, I understood that fear, but we have to understand that fear holds us back. And, we've heard about imposter syndrome. I mean, I've met some of the most amazing young women, mathematicians, getting into Harvard, studying sciences. And, what you learn is that guys will say, oh, it's hard, and they'll keep going. And then sometimes, unfortunately, women might say, oh, I don't think I can. And it gets hard. And what they do is they drop out. And in fact, what we need them to stay in and just say, yes, it is hard. One of the best lessons really for me growing up and allowed me to really to take this change and pivot was learning this. And my mom said this, that no one ever said it would be easy. We have to stop expecting it to be easy. And then we give up so early particularly as entrepreneurs. You got to have passion. You got to have that tenacity, that determination, that when you have an idea, believe in it. But oftentimes, it's the voices in our head that start telling us what we can't do. Oftentimes say you have to be careful who you share your dreams with too, because other people will say, why are you? In fact, it happened to me. Why should I do this? Why are you leaving your corporate job? You're comfortable. Well, first of all, let me just say this. I thought it was more risky for me to stay. I knew there was something in my heart that I wanted to do.
Now, which corporate job? So just a quick back. You have a very strong business background.
Thank
you have an MBA from Northwestern's Kellogg School of Management, a BA in economics from UPenn. You did an executive education program from Dartmouth's Tuck School of Business. I wish I had done that. I'm going to just say, I grew up in the South. I was encouraged just to go to a good liberal arts college and do something. And I did, but I never was encouraged to go get a master's degree in business. And I wish if that did. What drove you to take that business path that I think is important? I really think it's important because college is expensive. You might as well go and invest in a education that you can then take with you for the long haul.
No, I actually agree with that. First of all, my mom was great at understanding how important it was to expose us to things. So we were the kids that always were at camps and every weekend, and we'd turn around but she also understood the importance of education. And so, the thing is that I'll tell the audience this, and one of the things I had to learn is that you have to just say, let them underestimate you and do you. And so when you know that you are properly educated or that you have the skill, don't let other people just, say that you don't. And so for me, it was just understanding that education can open doors for you. Mm-hmm. And education, by the way, comes in very different forms. So you don't have to go to the pens of the world and everything that I've done, but I had the great fortune and blessing to do that. But I looked at each of those opportunities as learning opportunities. But here's what also I think people miss. How many people go to college and then they don't really know their classmates and that they have extended those relationships, because the world is really about relationships, right? And so it was just understanding how when you're in those environments, they're going to be your future employer. They could be your future investor. They could just be your partner. There's a lot that you can do there. So there's this fertile ground there to nurture and understand. So any place you go, all I say is just go do your best and then take the learnings away. But oftentimes the learnings are in the classroom, but also outside.
So that's interesting. A lot of people may say, I'm too busy I'm too busy taking care of my family, taking the home, taking care of my business to go out and, network. Some people hate the term network, but it's not about networking. It's about nurturing. What are some examples of how you've done it and how those relationships have helped propel you and them, the other person as well?
Well, I'm going to start with the fact is that when I needed help, so oftentimes we'll say we don't have education or the talent to do something or the money to do something. And I say that you may not have it, but you have access to it. So stop counting yourself out because you didn't have an education that somebody else had or the resources they had. You can access those things. And again, those are the relationships. And it was interesting, in one of my first ventures, I was at an event, ran into a classmate of mine from Penn, and I was raising funds at the time. And guess what? He ended up being an investor in our brand. And so, it's just happened to be happenstance, and he believed in me. And then oftentimes they're betting on the jockey, not the horse. And so when you have somebody, for me, when you invest in me early, you're telling me you have faith in me. But I also know that I have an obligation too, right, to honor that faith and that obligation of saying someone said, you know what, I believe in you, go do it. And there have been failures. Don't get me wrong. This has not been this, linear road to success. And it mostly looks like this. I talk about the loss of money and all of that, and it happens. But then the thing is, what do you take away? And I always say, if you're not failing often, then you're not living, because the failures are where the real lessons come. And again, back to relationships, you're going to find that there's some that shouldn't even be in your life. I say doing a little laundry, because you really have to surround yourself with people who encourage you, who stretch you, who inspire you. And then if you have people in your life that are naysayers or questioning who you are, I say limit your time. But I call it courage circles. We have to build this armor around us because there's so many things that can sort of derail us and discourage us. And we just don't have the time. We need to focus on the goal in front of us. And so success is really a mind game. And it's also, again, about the people you surround yourself with. So, Melanie, I have to say this. When I was looking forward to this, I love the title, as I mentioned earlier, Live Fearless, Fabulous You, because I also talk about being the CEO of you and how we have to take control and not look to other people who to live our lives for us, make decisions for us. You've got to stop thinking other people are going to bail us out and solve our problems for us. We're so resourceful in that. And so as we think about relationships, I guess say this, I used to make a plan. It's like when I would go to some place, just make sure you meet at least 3 people. Because if you've ever been someplace and you walked in and you didn't, literally, and the brand is about that. In fact, I built this brand, Good Trouble. It was about making great bourbon, but frankly, I wanted to use it as a tool. I wanted to be a tool for connection and conversation and social change. And I understood that in those moments, really, I just want to inspire people to be all that they can be, inspire people to be the change that they want to see in the world. And then, when you understand that you can live life with passion and purpose, and my purpose is, to just inspire that change and make a difference in any small way. I think we have this mentality of all or nothing. Well, I don't know what to do. I can't do anything. Everything, like a little drop of water, right? In that well, every bit helps. And right now, more than ever, the world needs everyone to lean in to help us make this world better. And again, just small little acts of kindness, moments when you use your voice to speak up. In those moments, we recognize that there's opportunity.
Absolutely. When I started Fearless, Fabulous You, it was part of my second book in my emotional recovery from not just breast cancer, but a lot of major overhauls in my life, in my business. And I had to really, there are times where you don't feel so fabulous and you feel like throwing in the towel. And I had gotten to that point and I kept saying, you got to stay fearless and fabulous. You have to. You've got a long future ahead. I think everybody out there has to do that because you will get kicked down the stairs. You may get kicked up the stairs, but you may get kicked, and you got to take those punches and get stronger for it. Right, Dee? Have you ever faced that? Tell me about a time you had to do that.
I don't know if we have enough time to talk about all the times I've been in that place. But, I love that you mentioned that because here's what happens. You can get kicked and your spirit could be down. But then in those moments, you got to find what the joy is. It's like, why? And, I always say, bad things always last forever. That's just not the normal state. But you have to talk your way out of things oftentimes. Right. You got to help yourself understand your why. Why? If you don't know your why for doing things, then it might be harder to come out of those things. And whether it's just simply to live your best life, if it's just simply that you might live it for somebody else, if that's what it takes. But understanding your why am I doing the great things I do? Why do you have a show? You know that you're helping people. And the thing is, there's a power of one. I had to learn this. And even when I wrote my book, and when I was thinking about the bourbon, we think, oh, I have to do something magnificent. I have to be a unicorn right away. No, the thing is, if you help one, I promise you that other person will help another. Right. And Chris Gardner, I know some of you might know from, you might know him. Chris, what is it? Will Smith played him in Pursuit of Happiness. And he told me a story about this preacher writing this sermon, and it got to the audience and realized that when he got to the church, there was only one person in the room. But he had written it, and he said, I'm going to deliver it. And then the person who came up to him after said, "You changed my life," it was Billy Graham. And I'm like, he says, "Yes, I know it's true because Billy Graham told him that story." Just think about one person that you
Right.
can help and get the noise out of the way. And then the snowball effect will happen. There's momentum in that. And even when you're trying to
Right.
start a business, stop thinking
You got to
about,
keep going.
just keep, but look, just do one
You know,
thing at a time. It's a building block. And then the
awesome.
more you're encouraged and the more you're going to think, oh, I can do this. And you create this beautiful momentum of success around you. And then when you do hit a, a roadblock, guess what? You'll know that you need to navigate around it. Because sometimes you keep doing the same thing all over again. And then, we know what they say, keep doing the same thing, you get the same result. Sometimes the adjustments in changing your business can happen with one minor move, just a small one, or one other person you talk to, or maybe thinking about it in a different way. And also not being afraid to pivot. But see, I
Yeah.
started out with one business, and this is another one. I thought
Right.
about Samsonite, was a luggage company. Of course, they're a conglomerate. But, we started small. I started with Ben and Jerry's as my first franchise.
Yeah, I was curious about that because I
Yes.
actually know a lot of people who are curious about getting into franchising. Why did you decide to do that? I guess you invest or you buy a franchise? Is it buy
Yep,
or
yep.
invest?
Yeah, it's both. This is
Okay.
because you're
Yes.
buying into it because you're basically licensing their name to use it, but the
Mhm.
business is yours, and so
Mhm.
so you are
But
owning it. Right. But what's interesting for me in the early stages when I decided that I wanted to go out and be an entrepreneur, I knew that franchising was a great opportunity for me to move into a business. And so
yeah.
the secret is in finding really great franchises. And if any of your audience thinking about it, there's a really special list out there in the world that the SBA lists, and it has all the ones that have pre-approvals. That means that those are on that list have a higher success rate. And I'm always cautioning people about new ones, not to say that they shouldn't do it. I just want them to do their homework. I will never, ever keep anyone from their dreams because I think we all deserve to be anywhere our dreams take us.
Mhm.
But I want us also to make sure we do the homework to
Yeah.
ensure that you minimize the risks in that. And I knew that I wanted to build wealth. Because wealth will allow me to do the things that I want to do by helping other people.
Mhm.
And so I also knew that one can be one, and there's nothing wrong with that. But to build wealth, I knew through franchising, you needed to have multiples. And so I chose a brand that was socially conscious. No surprise, given the things that I do. I love them as a brand. And I love the stance that they take. I think they do and demonstrate social mission in a fabulous way. But, it's just learning which ones. And also, the other important thing, just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean you should. Because
Right.
people try to do things that I've done. I had an employee even talking about a downfall to try to take all of our resources and go do what we did, which was awful, right? But that's forgiveness. You move on. They didn't succeed. It was short term, right? It was short lived. But that's going to happen. We have to be aware that people might come and do things to undermine us, but we can't hold on to that. Then the universe takes care of those kind of people anyway. I hope I answered the question that you had about
No,
franchising.
you did. No, it's interesting. I get approached all the time, but I know people do, and then it's interesting. A lot of people in the sports industry do it because for people who are in sports, they get paid a lot of money, but they have a very short career, and a lot of them invest in franchises because they can have more longevity. So it's an interesting and another conversation. But I was fascinated by that in your many business endeavors. So in all the things you could do, because you have experience in franchising, banking, financing, the concessions management business, which is a whole nother very interesting
Yes.
business to be in. Why did you decide to go into distilling, which is a big investment, and why bourbon? Because and I know that the beverage alcohol industry has its challenges, more so in wine than spirits. But I do know a number of spirits companies, because that's my background, have had to close or disintegrate or file. You actually have gone into it. I mean, it's not new. I just want to say we're going to get into that. But what was your path to get into it, and what was your why to get into it?
So the path was one, I, like you, love bourbon and whiskeys and all of that. And so I was drinking it. And then also we all know that a lot of women weren't drinking it, but surprisingly, so they are. So that's just a falsehood out there that women don't drink bourbon. That's far from the case. In fact, what I
bourbon. Yeah, women love bourbon.
You know what I say though? I said, you remember our grandmother, she would be sitting around in the little teacups and you think that was tea. It was not tea, everyone. That brown stuff was a little nip or something. But then I'm a curious sort, and I started drinking, and then I went to a tasting, and I loved the different varieties, and I love the complexities of the flavors. And so it really started with me just being curious about how they make it. And so I started studying craft distilling. And then once I did that, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I says, well, why not consider making it? Right. And but then I said then, though, if I was going to do it, again, back to the why. And I just thought that the bourbon, I knew what I wanted to call it.
Not a good investment.
I knew that I wanted to make it called a Good Trouble. And I knew that I wanted to make it really great, because you can't be good trouble and not be good. But also the other part of that, you mentioned this earlier about teaming up with an 8th generation master distiller, Jacob Cole, was that here is this woman who's not, there are not many of us in the space. And again, people want to underestimate you. And so our job is always doing the best that we can, right? So there was a way to manage any concerned about, well, is liquid good or not? But the path was simply starting with him. I interviewed a lot of people. Jacob understood my passion and need to make the uses as a tool. He understood my fight and desire to fight for social justice. You talk about the lady on the bottle that's inspired by the Statue of Liberty, which means liberty for all. But we don't have that. And so I knew that we could use that as a symbol of hope. But it was just literally being able to understand and then thinking about the business model. So I spent early year just spending time getting it tested. We knew we had made great liquid, but the market needed to validate the liquid. And so we did that. And I was proud that, the one coveted one, the gold at San Francisco World Spirit Competition was a joy. And then this year, Forbes called us one of the best bourbons under 50. And then we just got another double gold. But if nothing else, I knew that we made a really, really great spirit. And that's really the joy. And that's how it all sort of started, is just understanding, how do I use something? And I think with any business, the why, back to what I said earlier, why am I doing this? I'm not just trying to put a product on the shelf and say, hope someone buys it. You talked about where the industry is right now. So first of all, I understood very, very early on that this kind of growth rate was not sustainable, because it was just everyone was throwing bad product, any and everything out there, because the industry was headed this way. And everything levels off at some point. Yeah. And I just understood that we had a great story, our purpose, we had great liquid. And so when you hear these stories about where the industry is, and you're right, there's been closures and all, but let's get behind why they closed, right? We don't know if their cost structure was too high, that they didn't have the strong customer base, were they too dependent on one customer, and that, there's all these things behind the story. But actually where we sit in the super premium category, there's growth there. And so I don't want everyone to see where an industry is going to say, but then also ask yourself this, what can you do differently? And so we studied right now some of the biggest brands out there that either unicorn or sold, and understood what led to their success, but then also what market conditions did not exist at the time that I can leverage now to build a successful brand. So you just look at where the opportunities are, and that's where we are in terms of building Good Trouble.
It's really important, as they say in marketing, to have that unique selling proposition. Just to quickly, for viewers and listeners, this is a Kentucky bourbon. So bourbon whiskey can be made anywhere in the United States, but Kentucky bourbon must follow, I've written about this so many times, federal requirements, which are This is why it's special and premium. 51% corn, distilled to no more than 160 proof in new charred white oak American barrels.
That's right.
Must be made in Kentucky to the guidelines and regulations of the state of Kentucky and aged for at least 1 year. So that mash bill is 51% corn, whereas rye whiskey and others can be other kinds of grains.
That's exactly right. I love that you've done your homework. And
I've written about this a lot because I
saw that.
love it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I love it too. And so here's for the audience, they could impress their friends. Whiskey isn't bourbon.
Right.
Bourbon is whiskey.
Right.
And that 51% corn is that distinguishing factor. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, you have the mash bills, the grains and everything. And to your point about Kentucky, it is very high standards. I'm an Ohioan, Buckeye, go Buckeye here, but also that Ohio River. I always talk about when we make wines out of France, in different regions and their different soils, it's the same thing. And so that was another one. I knew that I wanted to make a Kentucky bourbon. There was no exception. I wasn't going to make
Kentucky bourbon has a terroir. You mentioned, the Ohio River is very important. The soil, the corn, because different types of heirloom corn. That is what distinguishes. And I just want to say, I know you spent time in Kentucky. There's a great Kentucky Bourbon Trail.com website to learn more, because it's also a great place to visit.
It really is. And you learn so much. But you think about bourbon is Americans' whiskey. They own that. That's what is ours. And that was the other part that made it so intriguing to me to do. But this is an American spirit and something that we can all be proud of. And so that's why I hope that, those out there continue to support the industry. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's growth opportunities ahead. And so I think you just have to pursue it in a smart way. A methodical way, but not allow. Again, that's where fear comes in. Oh my gosh, I'm not going to do it because they said this. Well, you have to have your own sort of formula for success. And if you, again, back to USP, a unique selling proposition, a great story that people can connect to. And I want people to connect to this brand in ways they never have. And you look at all the bottles on the shelf, and I do it all the time when I'm out. I'm like, you know what? I'm so proud of what we've done here, because I know that with every bottle, they invest in our foundation. We take those funds. We're doing all these wonderful things in communities. The fact that we know that we need to inspire people to get in good trouble and be a part of this world of change that we want to see. So that's what's so joyful about doing this. It's, again, the liquid's great and we can have some fun doing it and getting in good trouble, but also that we can pour with purpose. This is a purpose-driven brand. Mm-hmm. And again, I talked about Ben and Jerry's. If you think about brands that are just standing for something, we want to stand for something. We want to inspire others.
Absolutely. So you're doing some really interesting things. You just referenced the Shine Your Light Foundation. Explain what the purpose. It's a nonprofit. What are some of its initiatives?
Well, I'll tell you the one that's close to my heart. Are you a golfer by chance, Molly? I didn't think I could see that in your background.
No, I am. I look just like both my parents. They're sadly both deceased, but they both inspired me to be fearless and fabulous.
There you go. Well, there are several things, but mainly there are two things. When you think about how we preserve legacies, how do we inspire people to go out there and do the things they want to do? Mm-hmm. I happen to be a trustee for the PGA Foundation, but I see kids, and I know that from my own background, you wish for things you wish you hope that you could do. So first of all, I never want money to be a reason why people don't do anything. I don't want people who have dreams like being an entrepreneurship to think money is it. It's not, and so how do we close the gap? How do we also bring these great opportunities back to what I said earlier? My mom taught me the importance of being exposed to everything. And the greater you're exposed, the greater your world becomes, the greater your choices are, and the greater the possibilities. And so one thing is I leaned into golf from being a PGA trustee, first tee with my fellows, being able to make sure, for instance, a team who's never been fitted for golf clubs. Can you believe in a D1 school? making sure that they could actually be fitted and get clubs, or because they're in Chicago and they can't play and only certain courses to get them as simulators, so they would have play year round and help them with their game. Or for instance, what I love about what I do for the first tee, the fellow that I bring, is that the young men and women are young kids of color, but everyone at the top didn't look like any of them. So now I'm bringing people in and we teach golf and STEM over the summer months to young kids. And just think about what that does. It's not only you're learning the game, you're learning things about math and science, but you also are seeing it for someone that looks like you. And that's critical. Just like my role in this industry right now, even the things you do, when they see us enroll, someone out there can see themselves and then they can be inspired. And so being able to do that, I just joined the board of Future Founders. These are just the most diverse group of entrepreneurs. And I say one of my purposes is to shorten the runway to success for others. I don't want people to take as long as I had to get here. Now, we do need to fail. We got to do things that are important and navigate, but there's certain things that we can help people do to get there a little faster. And so anything that we do, and then for instance, right now I am trying to help, frankly, reclaim the blues for Chicago and the world.
Yeah. Let's talk about that, because I'm a huge Buddy guy. So I live in New Orleans. So one of my highlights was,
there, by the way, I had to keep it in it. It was signed by a Buddy. I love him.
Buddy Guy performed at the Jazz Fest at the Blues tent, my favorite tent. And he came, I was like this close to him because he gets down off the stage and he's going down the hall and he's like right there. I still have the video, and he's like he's 85 and
89 now.
Yeah, well, that's it. He was 85 at the time, yes. And I posted. I'm like, this is 85 because my mother was like lying in bed. She just broke her hip and she refused to get up. I'm like, hey, Mom, you're 85. He's 85. What's the problem?
That's exactly right.
You created a limited edition, very lovely limited edition to Chicago, the Chicago Blues. Is it the Foundation Legacy? Talk to me about it and the connection with Buddy Guy.
Yeah, see, there's a story and everything. And I got to know Buddy Guy, and Buddy said he was feeling some kind of way about the blues in Chicago because he could go to all these other cities, whether he go to Nashville, Memphis, New Orleans. We just did something with Preservation Hall as well. And then you come to Chicago.
Cool.
And so he said, look, but if you come here, you don't really see it. But this is something else. Again, we own it. Blues originated here. There would be no rock and roll and other genres without the blues. And so it's 100 years. And so this bourbon is 100 proof. It was a way to really honor the blues and legends like him. And so we launched something called the Blues Legacy Project. Okay. And that's how do we reclaim the blues for Chicago and the world. And so I'm leading an initiative with an amazing committee to build a statue here. And it's going to be at secret is out. Navy Pier, you guys heard it first. It's supposed to be a secret, but now your audience knows. But we're excited to be able to start thinking about how do we bring this music back as part of our own culture and legacy here in Chicago. And I understand what that blues means, resilience and hope. And that was the other reason. Blues is good trouble. And so this honor to bring in our new edition, 445 bottles called Trouble and Blues, is just exciting to get people and to bring the music back. And it says, we say good trouble lives on, the blues lives on. And Buddy Guy was asked by Muddy Waters, he said, look, I want you to keep the blues alive. And so I love that we can work with him in some ways to help him do just that. So if anyone's interested, they can go to goodtroublebourbon.com and Good Trouble Bourbon, and also visit Buddy at Legends here in Chicago. So it looks like Melody is having a little internet challenge. I wish there was a way for me to chat with everyone out there, but I do know that I'm excited about all the things that we could do. There you are, Melody. Hi.
There you go. I don't know whether it's me or Florida, because our engineer's in Florida. New Orleans,
Don't
Florida.
worry. I was talking to your audience as you were
I heard you.
coming back in.
I heard you. I heard you. So what I was going to say, the Blues Trail, if for those of you who love to travel, I've driven the Blues Trail from Mississippi to New Orleans. What's interesting is these are guys, the blues history, these are guys that often are truck drivers, school teachers. They do a lot of auto parts. They usually have these basic jobs just to fund their passion, which is performing. So the more you can do for these amazingly talented people, because often they're just playing for tips.
Right. That's right.
And it's a heritage that I think is quintessentially American music. Don't you?
I absolutely agree. And, if you think about this, when we break bread, when we drink, and when we're enjoying music, in those moments we're more alike than we're different. So there's joy in those moments. Think about how you feel when you're listening to really good music.
Right.
And the blues is just that. I love when I go to Buddy's Club, Legends, and to see the room of it's so diverse and like sometimes like, why can't we just carry that outside of the room into the world, right? And
right.
so and so to keep inspiring hope in that way, Melanie, is a huge opportunity. And I would love for all of us to sort of think about those moments when we are more alike than we're different and just talk. And find ways to connect. And I truly believe that this world will be better because of it.
Yeah. I mean, Good Trouble is about lifting people up. I love that. I love the term Good Trouble. I think it's important because too many people give up. And the opposite of that is saying, no, let's get into some good trouble and do something. And you gotta, for everyone watching and listening, we all have times when we're not feeling fairly fabulous, but you gotta lift yourself up, even if it's calling somebody, this is how I do. I'm going to ask you, like, when I'm not feeling my most fabulous, I call someone who I know will listen, because some people don't, and who will say, oh no, you're awesome. Keep going. How do you do it? Because you can't always be up. How do you deal with the days when you're not as fabulous?
So first of all, one of the things I learned, and frankly, allowed me to do some of the things and the ideas that I've had actually come because I meditate. I learned that I needed to find stillness and be still and know that I am God, but in those moments of quiet. And I love taking people on the journey because when you think about there's all the noise out there, there's just no way to hear. And when they say to you that you have everything that you need right now, then so many people find that so hard to believe. But guess what? If they find a moment to be quiet and just listen, the answers are there. And then now I need you to act, first to listen, then to act. But you first have to be still. And so in the stillness is that. Go ahead.
I think you're right. But I go on long walks, short, whatever. I just get out. But the key is embrace stillness. Even if you're moving, just don't be distracted. Just
you're right.
Still for a bit. It's still in your head, your body, just away from everything else.
Sometimes just got to remove, just get out of it. And you said it best. I also walk. When when there's a moment when you're stuck because you're not thinking anything, and you just have to change the scenery and most times go outside.
Yeah.
And then just literally watch what happens is really transformative. And they're small things. And that's what I want the audience to understand. These are small little things that we can do, whether it's believing faith or maybe just taking a change, taking a moment to be quiet. And for anyone out there, because I know someone in your audience that says, oh, I don't know how to meditate. That is just not true. Because you are going to, mind's going to wander. That's just part of the process. But being able to be still. And then I said 10 minutes. I try to do 20 minutes in the morning and in the evening, but minimum 10 minutes. But in those moments, you will find so many things. And you're like, oh, solutions to problems. If you ever have problems, be still. Yeah. And there's and those moments when you are feeling that way, that's actually where I think the magic happens, is if you can just look at that and see that that's the way the universe is trying to tell you that you need to change or do something different. Yeah. Instead of going down the rabbit hole, it's a way to say, hey, I see you. I need you to shift for a moment. And you have to find your own way and your own mechanisms. Yeah. And so, but everyone should have a way to understand how to get themselves out.
I think your key is to find your own mechanism in your own way. And it may not be sitting and meditating. It could be, I swim a lot. So I do a lot of just the movement through the water.
See, but it's movement though. It's actually finding the movement. But I'd say
Yeah.
take a walk, reduce
Yeah.
the screen time. And here's the other thing. We got to stop I call this is an addiction to fear, an addiction to the phones.
Oh, tell me about it.
So people say they don't have time for their dreams, but yes, you do.
Yeah.
Okay. Because all that time you spend just mindlessly going through, I have to do it in the morning. Now I've learned that when I get up, how many of us, I love to get raised hands that would literally reach for the phone, and how much time in that moment, right? So you can exercise, you can write, there's all the things that you say you wanted to do in your life. It just takes a little extra discipline. But I will tell you, if you switch the amount of time that you're spending on that little device and just shift it to reading 10 pages a day,
right?
It's just these, that's the thing, it's just their minor shifts. So I've learned to sort of look at the minor shifts that I need to make in order to get me to where I need to be.
I think that's a really great point. It's a great point to end on too, that you just can create minor shifts to steady the boat and steady your path. And of course, you don't have to get into big trouble. You just have to get into good trouble. So that means small steps can make big accomplishments. And of course, when you enjoy good trouble, enjoy it in small sips, because I do embrace and encourage sipping in moderation.
Sip in moderation and sipping responsibly, right? We want everyone to know
sipping responsibly. I'm a big believer in being a responsible sipper. Always go for the best you can afford, go for the better product, and drink in moderation.
I'd rather have something really, really good and a little of it versus a lot of that. I'm also, because that's actually about our spirit. I'm so happy you said that. And this is a great way to end. Because first of all, I want people to dream big. I want you, in fact, someone told me this early on my journey, is that I had this one idea back to franchising. Oh, I think I'll get one. It's like, no, I want you to think 5 times larger. You can do that. But also, you know what? Love on yourself, give yourself, treat yourself, and just get the best of something. And so I much rather have, one beautiful silk, beautiful blouse, or something that I love all the time versus a little bit, or even bourbon. I mean, I'm always going to drink some of the best, and you're not always going to be able to afford that. But if you get it, savor it. But I want people to take care of their own spirits by just treating yourself.
Absolutely.
And even on that walk is something. But listen, this has been, I could talk to you for a long, long time, and I'm hoping that we'll get a chance to chat again.
I hope so.
I appreciate you for all the great things that you're doing for your audiences, and thank you for allowing me to share my story with them. I know already that you are living fearlessly and fabulously, and all the things that you do. Well, listen, but the thing is, I'm going to say one thing about that. You're not trying, you're doing. We have to say,
I'm being it.
And you are doing it. And your audience is doing it too. And they got to understand that they have opportunities to realize a dream, and just stop thinking about so many things. Just choose a few things.
Yeah. Do less and do it with the most passion possible and purpose. Well, and you embrace passion and purpose well.
Oh, well, thank you for that.
Without a wrap. Thank you. So thank you, Dee M. Robinson. So if you want to learn more about Good Trouble Bourbon, it's goodtroublebourbon.com. And you have a website as well, right? What is it?
Yes. Well, most now everything goes to goodtroublebourbon.com, but then couragebydesign.com if anyone's interested in the book, or they can get that on Amazon. But
Courage by Design.
Yes. But listen, the most important thing is that I want everyone to do. We were built to slay dragons. Remember that, and just go do you. Go do fabulous. The world is just waiting for you.
Absolutely. Again, great show, great conversation, despite some ins and outs, but that's life. Thank you for joining me. For all of you out there, thank you for continuing to join me. This is 12 years I've been doing this for, and it's all purpose and passion. So as I always like to end my show, it was my second chapter. You have the choice in life to do a lot of things. Always choose to live life on your terms and not by the terms that other people try to set for you, because you don't want to be put in anybody's corner. You want to be free to be fearless and fabulous always, and always choose fearless and fabulous.
Well said. Thank you for that gift, Melanie. It's my pleasure to be with you.
All right.